Hello, hi, once again. This is yours truly, Clarisse T, and today is Tuesday, the 23rd of July. So, this is the final week before the new month, and the month of August, at least for me, it comes with great expectations, and I'm quite excited about it. But I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to preempt it, and that I believe also that the final week of July is also as important. Like, um, yours truly had been embroiled in several disputes, and so I went to the labor office. That's the government agency in charge of the labor, the relation between the employee and the employer, and the laws that are supposed to protect the laborers. And I don't want to belabor. What a pun. I don't want to concentrate my this episode to the regulations that govern the circumstances and my request for assistance. Needless to say, I have been familiarized with the law of the land about the labor, and so I speak as one with enough or sufficient experience, the sufficient experience to talk about the discrepancy between the labor code in this system of governance and the labor law in God's kingdom. And that I believe that some of my plans did not prosper because I am part of the transition period wherein we navigate the differences of the system, and I'd rather read this, and I leave it to others who are more more capable of discussing this. Matthew chapter 20, verse 16. The parable of the workers in the vineyard. Chapter 20, verse 16. No, I'd rather begin with the first verse. For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire men to work in his vineyard. He agreed to pay them a denarius for the day and sent them into his vineyard. About the third hour, he went out and saw others standing in the marketplace doing nothing. He told them, "You also go and work in my vineyard, and I will pay you whatever is right." So they went. He went out again about the sixth hour and the ninth hour and did the same thing. About the 11th hour, he went out and found still others standing around. He asked them, "Why have you been standing here all day long doing nothing?" "Because no one has hired us," they answered. He said to them, "You also go and work in my vineyard." When evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his foreman, "Call the workers and pay them their wages, beginning with the last ones hired and going on to the first." The workers who were hired about the 11th hour came and each received a denarius. So when those came who were hired first, they expected to receive more. But each one of them also received a denarius. When they received it, they began to grumble against the landowner. Those men who were hired last worked only 1 hour, they said, and you have made them equal to us who have borne the burden of the work and the heat of the day. But he answered one of them, Friend, I am not being unfair to you. Didn't you agree to work for a denarius? Take your pay and go. I want to give the man who was hired last the same as I gave you. Don't I have the right to do what I want with my own money? Or are you envious because I am generous? And chapter 16. So the last will be first, and the first will be last. So it's unheard of, right? They can go to the labor department and somehow find loopholes in the system, and they can be heard. Of course, there's no telling how it will be resolved, whether in their favor or not. But such is the system that uh, each one will be given uh, e- each one should be given fair hearing at the very least. Like that doesn't seem like equality. And if the weighing scales will be used to quantify, qualify, and put a price tag to the salary, to the income that will be received, of course, they can find some justification that they can say that we are, being victimized by a partiality favor. The management is favoring this Johnny comes lately, Johnny come lately, and then Johnny's come lately. Yeah. And then we have been like a 10th generation worker. 10th, like my father and grandfather and forefathers have been faithful in our labor and in our toil. And here comes these people who, you know, who had been loitering around, and they were clueless that there are available work for them, that there are spaces for them where they can work and they can earn and they can be productive and they can be taken care of, and that they will be accepted, contrary to the initial um, possi- possible reasons why, instead of them volunteering willingly to work, someone had to go to them and tell them that they have a place they have a place in this vineyard where they can find out for themselves the generosity of the owner and the offer of the owner. So it's the complication, the complexity of the situation had been foresighted or had been foreseen from in times past. And I speak as one with cases, or not cases really, but there had been conflicts that had been mediated in the labor office. And then on chapter 22, the parable of the wedding banquet, Jesus spoke to them again in parables, saying, The kingdom of heaven is like a king who prepared a wedding banquet for his son. He sent his servants to those who had been invited to the banquet to tell them to come, but they refused to come. Then he sent some more servants and said, Tell those who have been invited that I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and fattened cattle have been butchered and everything is ready. So I would correctly deduce that Um, Probably they can decline such an offer if they are vegetarian, something like that. Come to the wedding banquet. But they paid no attention and went off, one to his field and another to his business. So they are busy and occupied with their personal occupation. Verse 6. The rest seized these servants, mistreated them, and killed them. The king was enraged. He sent his army and destroyed those murderers and burned their city. Then he said to his servants, the wedding banquet is ready, but those I invited did not deserve to come. Go to the street corners and invite to the banquet anyone you find. So the servants went out into the streets and gathered all the people they could find, both good and bad, and the wedding hall was filled with guests. But when the king came in to see the guests, he noticed a man there who was not wearing wedding clothes. Friend, he asked. So, not wearing the wedding clothes is still a friend. The man who was not conforming to the protocol, the man who was not uh, fitted to be at that particular wedding, was still called a friend. Friend, he asked, how did you get in here without wedding clothes? But what a question when he was the one who told the servants. So the servants went out into the streets and gathered all the people they could find, both good and bad, and the wedding hall was filled with guests. And when the king arrived, how did you get in here without wedding clothes? The man was speechless. He didn't know the answer. He couldn't give out, he couldn't communicate. He could not read any notes. He could not talk about it, communicate what he felt, what was in his mind. Then the king told the attendants, tie him hand and foot and throw him outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are invited, but few are chosen. And so there is a place where the connotation that this is a place for the wimps, for those who would not execute the judgment of God, for those who would, compromise, and that they would take life as a lukewarm, not hot, not cold, and that they would be contented to be bored playing harp. So that doesn't correspond to the picture where interesting men and women have been called, and they have proven to be worthy to be called, and that the different processes, the different due process, the invitation, the attendance, and then what are you expected to be when you get there. And so these are things to be done by active and passionate people. And so they are not expected to be bored senselessly with a monotonous day by day life, neither hot nor cold. And these wrong impression should be it should be tackled, because they paint a wrong picture, and that the people loitering around doing nothing, they are empty, or that they have the potential, that somebody saw their potential, and but no people are, were willing to go to them and explain um, that there is a place for them. Come as you are, and we'll see how you will find your own particular fulfillment and joy, that there is no uniform source of fulfillment. For a person who find joy in in the field, will find it suffocating to suddenly be suddenly working with numbers, cooped up in an office. But another person who has who can regard numbers as a doorway to something that can solve problems. So we all have a different idea of fulfillment. And no, not one person can paint the picture of fulfillment for every person, for everyone else. The system that I find myself, as I bring my cause of action to different government agency, comes out of a democratic process. So these are the processes that ideally had been consulted with the people, and the people's representatives have crafted the proper law to enact them so that each constituent, each citizen can benefit, from this collaborative work. Whereas with God's kingdom, it's entirely different system. So the self-righteous grumbling of the workers um, was directed against the decree of one person. Uh, this is my money, and I have been generous to others. So why do you take it against you personally if I become generous to others? So they have to accept it. And that's a difference. And I think, these are critical times also for the transition period, where each of us should be challenged how we see ourselves in such a system, because to live in denial and to not prepare is what, to our own detriment. Till here for now, and thank you for listening. Until next time, bye.